The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Under the lights tonight from Sparta, Kentucky, it's the Cars eSports Tour presented by the Championship eSport Association, round number 5 of the series. As always, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the Kentucky Legends Oval. My name is Austin Coop. Right next to me, my trusty sidekick, James Pike. And as always, we have Cisco Scaramuza giving the picture to you tonight, and we may actually have a special guest later on as well. We'll talk about that soon. James, we are at a very unique track. Remember, the schedule for the Cars eSport Tour is supposed to reflect the real-life tour as well, and this one most resembles the schedule, and we've seen a lot in the iRacing sim that have resembled them as well, and so far these guys are under warm-up, and you can definitely tell that it's very flat. There's hardly any banking except for on the front straightaway, where really you don't have to use it. It can be to your disposal. You could use it, you could not use it. They wanted as flat of a track as possible, and I think they may have got it.
Yeah, let's explain how we arrive at a race on a Legends Oval of all places. We're looking here for something that most resembles the Anderson Motor Speedway in Anderson, South Carolina, where the Cars Tour and the Southern Super Series ran their combined show over the weekend, the Border War 250. Now, Anderson's front straightaway is as flat as a pancake. So, you've got your pick of Legends Ovals, that's for sure, but most of them have banking on the front straightaway. Most notably, Atlanta and Charlotte both have about 2 degrees of banking up on that front straight. So the only place that has a Legends Oval that is completely flat is Kentucky, of all places. And that's how we end up running the Kentucky Legends Oval, which I think might also be a first for LSRTV. I don't know if we've ever done a Legends Oval race. So a lot of new stuff here for us, but should be a really, really fun time.
I can say it's been at least a few years. I think Evan Pasuk would probably have the exact date, time, and how long it's been, but it has been a while for us to do a broadcast on one of these really small, tight, packed tracks. And the thing is about this is that there's not much room. And not only is there not a lot of room, but you're not carrying a whole lot of speed here, James. And at a track like this, it can get really crowded. It looks like we have 11 drivers signed up tonight to do battle. And to be honest, for these drivers, they may want less drivers out there because these guys are going to really slinky up there in the corners, and it can really become quite a catastrophe for somebody if they get a little bit loose out of the corner and slow everybody up. Someone may not be as patient as another.
For those of you that pay attention to either the Bojangles Summer Shootout or the Thursday Night Thunder series for the Legends cars and the Bandos, you already know how bunched up fields in those races can get, and those cars are maybe about half as big as the ones that we're going to see racing tonight. So, yes, I think real estate is going to be at a premium on this track. Finding just any space at all to get into a rhythm is going to be of the utmost concern, and yeah, I think it's going to be really, really tough just to find anywhere to make anything happen. That's part of the challenge of running a track this small and this flat.
And while we're sitting here waiting for the drivers to get underway, we'll go through the points right now for the late model stock series. Matt Cucker, he currently has 500 laps under his belt in this series and leads with a total of 143 points over Jeremy Adams. He has 19 points ahead of him. That's a pretty good margin when you consider the number of cars that enter this field. And we have Jody Green, who sits in third. Brad Carpenter sits fourth. And Scott Naslin, he is in that fifth position. All those drivers have been to every single race, and we've seen all of them do extremely well, and I'll tell you, we've got some drivers that are coming up through the field. We have Taylor Kaufman, who has one less race under his belt, and he's in 11th place. He's doing really well as well. So definitely a lot of drivers to look at here through this field tonight as we look to be getting maybe a couple more drivers in before tonight's over.
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. And what remains to be seen here is some of these guys kind of towards the bottom of the standings jumped in later on as the season went on. So for those guys, they're not really in a position where they can worry about championship, but what they can worry about, of course, is, well, the payouts that is going to happen in the race. So for those guys, they're just going to run as hard as they possibly can. Points are out the window. They're just out there to get that money, that sweet money that, of course, you get for winning a race or placing in the top 3 in this series. And that could drive a lot of these guys. And, well, it's going to be a whole lot of fun tonight because these guys going at it on a Legends track in the late models. A lot of fun here, but Coop, they just finished Q.
Yeah, warm-up finally done for these guys, and it looks like Jody Green will get the pole with a time of a 13.612, a 1/1000th of a second over Kyle Barnes, who got a 13.613. Expect those two to be extremely quick. And Jeremy Adams, he's in that 3rd position. Adam Rigo is in 4th, and Brad Carpenter will start in that 5th position.
6th place belongs to the number 30 of Taylor Kaufman. Kyle Young will begin tonight from the 7th position. James Finn rolls off tonight from 8th. Scott Naslin starts 9th. Matt Cooker and Christian Peterson 10th and 11th in your late model stock field tonight.
And if you all want to know how much is at stake on this series, like Cisco was just talking about, you can visit championshipesports.com. Sign up if you're interested in a series like this and into the large payouts that this series does give their drivers. I think all but one driver will walk away with some form of money tonight. So that is definitely something to think about as these races go on. Jody Green, he will have one more pace lap around this track, and he will take these guys to the green flag at the Kentucky Speedway Legends Oval here tonight. Pace car doing a really slow maneuver around about 30 miles an hour here tonight. And the pace car, he will duck down in turns number 3. And these guys will get going, set to do battle. 150 laps here, commanded by Jody Green for this start. And the green flag is out. Here these guys go. Great start by Kyle Barnes on the outside. He may just clear Jody, but he not quite yet. He'll get him off of turns number 2. Look at that 15 machine of Kyle Barnes. He's going to get himself a great start here to this one. He started 2nd. He's already to the point, James.
Already making moves is the number 15 of Kyle Barnes. Look at how much body roll you see in the corners with these cars. That's the one thing that amazes me. Every time you see any car of any decent size come to a track this small, these things will just pitch in the corner, especially since we don't have any banking here whatsoever on this quarter mile. It is flatter than a pancake and just an incredibly interesting place to watch cars race. But in the meantime, while Kyle Barnes is checked out on the back of the field, you've got, guess who, Jeremy Adams stalking Jody Green, looking for 2nd, going to go underneath him to try and make him pass for the P2 spot this time by.
Yeah, look at him get right down in the inside right there. But Jody Green's not going to give it up without a fight. And that outside's actually not that bad. That's where Kyle Barnes got that spot, and you're going to see him door slam him. Jeremy Adams actually gave the 13 of Jody Green a little bit of a hit right there, and they're still side by side out of number 4. Looks like 2 is where you really want to have it right there, and Jody Green's going to have to yield yet another spot here. Jeremy Adams, he will go and chase down Kyle Barnes here, and it also looks like Adam Rigo, he's fending off Taylor Kaufman right now into turns number 3 and 4. These laps start to tick away. We're already on lap number 7 here as these guys are spread out pretty far. 6 seconds may not seem like it's far back, but when these guys are doing 14-second laps, looks like Kyle Barnes is already halfway to lapping these cars.
Yeah, Kyle's absolutely flying right now, doing a great job leading this pack, and I have to think if anyone's going to catch him, it's going to be that Globacom driver of Jeremy Adams. Talk about a guy who's been on a roll just in total in this series, not just in these late models. Done a great job in both vehicles, and well, obviously he's leading the points of one of them. So hey, it's not bad at all for the 89. But the problem is he just can't shake that number 13 of Jody Green. The 13, hey, he wants that position back at some point, and you have to think that Austin, at some point, if he's going to get the chance, Chrome Horn might be in play.
Yeah, it's early, but at no point do you want to yield as a driver at any stake. And also something that these guys have to wonder is how long can they make it in these races? They're 150 laps long, but we can already see out of turns number 2 and number 4 that the rubber is starting to get laid down pretty well, and actually going into 3 as well. These cars, they're 3,100 pounds going through these corners at about 50 miles an hour, and when you think about how much they're throwing the cars in there, like James said, there's going to be a lot of wear on these tires, and with the fact that they're doing that, who has the car to make it this long distance? Who can preserve those tires the most? We're all here in lap 13, but with the way that these guys are driving, it's probably going to be a long green flag run. They do have competition cautions if needed in this series, but man, these cars are a little bit spread out, a little quicker than I was expecting, but they've got to really be planning for that long run.
I think the other thing contributing to the way this track is rubbering in so quickly is that you just don't have a lot of room and a lot of track to rubber down, and especially when you consider that everybody's trying to get through this track on the bottom and the corners. Everybody's basically running one lane the entire way around for the most part, unless you go side by side with someone. So yeah, I think you take all that into account, and it makes a lot of sense as to why we're already seeing the groove come in very, very quickly, just like we're already seeing Kyle Barnes jump out in front of everybody. Though Jeremy Adams has done a nice job of driving off the front of Jody Green's number 13 Patriot Fire Machine, coming up a little bit to Kyle Barnes, but it's mostly even lap times for the moment.
Big mover at the moment, Matt Cucker. He started in 10th place. He's not 4 position to that 6th place right now, and definitely to be expected for as well. He's doing in the points right now, of course, leading the points. He's your points leader, and he's going after Taylor Coffin right there in that number 30 machine. And Taylor Kaufman actually gets pretty wide right there at turns 4, but he's using that apron. We're seeing these cars start to get a lot wider here in the corners, and he's under him right now, and he's got to really make sure that that car gets a good exit off of all these corners in order to get the speed he needs. And we talked about it beforehand that we're trying to replicate something in real life, but right now I'm starting to see that these guys are really using that apron. Look at the 31. He's going to lose, or he's going to go onto the 30 right now and get a lot of time right there, and looks like the 30 is going to still be out there right now.
And what's interesting is it seems like if the higher they go on that banking, they just lose speed when they go up there. You have to go up that hill, and for the cars with, not as much horsepower as, let's say, Monster Energy Cup car or something like that, that's a big drain that you're going to have, as they're going to go side by side. Scott Naslin, oh my goodness, just about shoved Taylor Kaufman out of the way. But those guys, they have to worry about that increased grade when they hit the track there. So these guys trying to minimize that as much as possible, turn that into a double apex. It's also something they can use when they come off the banking.
Yeah, looking at that 30 of Taylor Kaufman just scuffed the outside pit wall, going backwards on pit road, of course, and it looks like that number 30 car has gone back a lot, and you can definitely see that this happens at a lot of short tracks, but even here when you're at a flat track like this, if you're on the outside lane and the inside's, of course, the fastest place around here, you're definitely going to start losing positions quickly. He was inside the top 5 at one point, and now he's in 9th place out of 11 cars, so definitely something to note here as these drivers keep going. And look at Jody Green, though. He's still in 3rd place, still right behind Jeremy Adams. He's still not letting him out of his sights. This battle keeps on going. He's still right there. He's not letting him out of his sights.
Yeah, hanging with him nicely. Meanwhile, Barnes is off the front and is starting to put people a lap down. Just put Kyle Young 1 lap down to everybody else. And then you get back to this battle pack here. Christian Peterson, Brad Carpenter, Adam Rigo in this mix, Scott Naslin, all sorts of people just kind of bunched in like sardines in the middle of the pack, just trying to find some breathing space. So it looks like Peterson's finding a way to get past all of them. So now he'll try and go catch up to Matt Coker.
Yeah, look at that number 69 machine right there. A lot of spots. 6 positions is what it's at right now, and they're on lap 29. And gotta imagine that 69 machine's got a lot of horsepower. Has the setup really tuned in for that guy, and seeing that he qualified towards the back of this field is kind of something that we wouldn't normally see from a driver who's done so well in the points, but he made the setup so that he could get through the field and carve through it. Another driver who's done that as well is the 23 Christian Peterson. He's also got himself up the same amount of spots. They're our biggest movers right now, and they've been doing that all year really. They've been able to get towards the front quickly if they have not qualified there, and those two have really done a lot of battle. So definitely pay attention to Adams, Cucker, and Peterson as this night goes on, but Kyle Barnes still leads the way. I think it's his first laps led actually in the series. It's a little bit of surprise to see him out here. We don't typically see the admin out here in these races, but sometimes that number 15 likes to have a little bit of fun out there, and decided he wanted to get in his car and show these guys how it's done, it looks like.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason is a lot of these guys worrying about that super late model race later on in the night. I mean, looking just at the entries for that race, a couple of the guys didn't even show up to run the late model because they're so worried about the SLM race and the higher stakes in that. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, these guys in this late model race. Obviously, they're racing for their own purse, but I'm wondering that on-track experience. And this is, keep in mind, Legends Ovals aren't really tracks that are often used on the iRacing service as a whole. You know, we'll use them maybe once or twice to run the Legends cars themselves in that series, or maybe the street stock C class. But apart from that, you really don't see tracks like this often used.
Yeah, and think about it. If you're having 150 laps at a track like this, you're doing 300 left-handed turns that are not the easiest. You know, we have some difficult tracks out here for these cars to go on, and for as flat as a track, you're putting a lot of wheel into this thing. And if you're doing 2 races in a row, you're doing double duty. I think a lot of drivers would say, you know what, I'm going to save my arm, save it for the next race. It sounds a little silly being in the sim, but it's a lot of laps. Think about 600 left-hand turns you'd have to make in a single night. It's not something that's easy, even for a sim driver. So definitely expect that that's a part of it for a lot of these guys here. It looks like we have a little bit of smoke coming out of turns number 4. It looks like we got a blown engine right here. Looks like it might be Jody Green, the number 13 car. He has got a blown engine, and that is going to cause the caution to come out. It appears that it may have been an overheating issue. Yeah, that looks like it's what it's going to be. Maybe something happened to the 13, not something we see terribly too often. We'll have to get the scoop on that, but the number 13 of Jody Green has brought out this first caution.
I would suspect it might have been an overheating issue. That seems to be common at places like this, and especially with as close as everybody was running, you're not really getting a lot of air to the front of that car anyway, so seems like a likely reason as to why Jody Green's engine has expired. But that came at a convenient time because we were about to have our competition caution, having completed 40 laps of green flag racing here. So that's one of the rules here in the Cars eSport Tour. If you go 40 laps without a yellow, we'll throw a competition caution, bunch the field up, and do it again up until the point where we hit 40 laps to go in the race. So we're going to get a caution at any way and at any point. So green coming out just, I suppose, makes it a little bit more convenient excuse, I guess, but it doesn't really matter, I think, all that much. What does matter, though, is the fact that Christian Peterson and Matt Cooker are now second and third right behind Kyle Barnes. We've got the 3 fastest guys in this field now, 1, 2, 3 in the running order.
Yeah, it appears also that Jody, as well as Jody Green, but it looks like Jeremy Adams has actually come the long haul down pit road as well. I'm hearing that it might be either fuel or he's got too much tape on the grill of that machine, so might be the issue for the 13 is that he left too much tape on the machine. May have hit somebody earlier on. It looked like his car was pristine shape, but definitely something to think about with these cars. Like you said, whatever they get off the whatever they put on the track is typically what they have. So whatever happened to Jody Green is probably from overheating, but I think more in detail the engines don't expire in the sim like they do in real life. All the engines are manufactured the same way in the sim, so I'd assume that maybe just an error on how much tape was put on the grill for something like that is what was the cause of the caution, and possibly Jeremy Adams realized he needed to adjust something on the car as well. He's a lap down in the 10th position, but up front Kyle Barnes in that number 15 machine. He will lead these guys to the green flag, and it is out and in the air on lap 46. Here we go for about 100 and more.
And side by side already, they were thinking about 3 wide. They decided against it. That was Cucker trying to jump to the inside of Barnes. It didn't happen, but talk about it changing the guard up front. Well, Christian Peterson and Matt Cucker, we said they were going to be factors later in this race. Well, later in the race is right now as they're trying to close in on Kyle Barnes. Meanwhile, side by side right behind him, Naslund and the 31 of Carpenter, they're going at it. Near contact between those two, but it looks like the 31 of Carpenter able to open up that gap ever so slightly on those guys right now. So everyone going to go single file for the moment. Your first battle is back with the 89, who is actually now 1 lap down because he made that trip to pit road to get rid of that tape. So he's got to come back through the field, get that lucky dog if he hopes to get back up front.
Kyle Barnes still continues to lead the way, but he has not got the lead that he was getting earlier on in the race. Christian Peterson still within half a second of him right here, and you can see that Peterson is absolutely going a lot farther in the corners than Kyle Barnes is right now. Kyle's, in a sort of way, is making it look easy, I'd say. He's going through the corner almost. It looks slow, but he's able to actually get around this place faster than just about anybody right now. Christian Peterson he's really diving it in the corners pretty hard, but I'd say that Kyle Barnes is just saving his stuff so much that I think that's the reason why Christian Peterson is able to catch him up so right now, and that's exactly what he's doing. You can see that 23 trying to get to his bumper, trying to get to the outside a little bit right there. It's the closest we've seen to a battle since the very beginning of the race for this lead. It's going to be the 23 and possibly the 69 here in the next couple of laps. Looks like Peterson lost the 10th that time. It's pretty visual. You can see how much time they're losing each lap or gaining each lap just because of how slow they get in the corners. Look at the 69 of Matt Cucker. He got really close to the 23 that time by, and these 3 cars are going to get pretty close here in the next couple of laps as it gets a shot to the 15 of Kyle Barnes.
I think what's most interesting about all of this is Peterson went wide there in the corner. Couldn't tell if he got a little bit of help from Cucker, but Cucker's going to get underneath him and go get that second spot. But regardless, Barnes is staying on the flat part of the track the entire way around. Cucker and Peterson in particular are arcing the corners more, both on the exit of 4 and the entry into 1. And I wonder if that extra distance traveled, maybe extra tire wear, maybe a difference in the way they take their lines around this track, will that play into how the end of this race shapes up and the conditions that these cars are in when we get down to maybe 20 and 30 laps to go?
Yeah, and watching those 3 guys, they're pretty equal right here at the moment with the way their cars stand behind them. They do have a battle for the 4th position. Scott Naslund is on fire, or is taking fire to the guy in front of him of Brad Carpenter here in the next couple corners, and they've been doing battle for the last few laps. Looks like the 31 of Brad Carpenter may have just touched the wall, the pit wall right there, and you can see him lock up that left front wheel right there in turns number 3. That's how much brake these guys are putting, going from about 80 miles an hour to a slow 45 miles an hour. It's about half the speed they were going in the corner. So Scott Naslund's looking to get maybe another position before this one's over, but Brad Carpenter, he's up as well. So those who are doing battle as well. Looking up through the field, look at the number. Looks like going under James Finn, it looks like to be the lap car of Jeremy Adams. He's not going to slow down just because he's a lap car. So I'm seeing him getting in front of that 61 right now.
And Adams doing an excellent job considering he's a lap down. He took the tape off there, and Jody Green did jump in the comments to let us know it was in fact the tape that blew up the car. So I think Adams just took a little bit, didn't want that to happen to him. So he decided to come down pit road, took the tape off the grill. So hopefully if he gets a caution here, he's going to be set. But I will tell you one thing, that battle for the lead, it just got close right now because the 69 of Cucker all over the back bumper of the 15. And I have to think if the 69 doesn't make it work on the outside, he might have to bump Barnes out of the way to get to that inside because Kyle isn't going to want to give that up. That's his favorite line on the whole track right now.
Yeah, I don't expect that 15 to move, and knowing the way these guys drive, they'll either take care of it quickly or they'll stay as it is right now. Maybe Cucker tries to go to the outside. There's the bumper you're looking for. Maybe I'm wrong. I think the 69 is getting a little impatient. Wants the lead as this race goes on, almost halfway with about 10 laps till that point. But you're also seeing Kyle Barnes hitting the grass just a tiny bit, making that car turn just maybe a little bit more on that one. You can see he's as close as possible to that grass, and I know he gets in it, he could possibly loop the thing around, but with the way the 69 was that one time, gave him the shove and then has not been that close to him since. But you can see the distance that the 69 makes on entrance, but the 15 just has the exit speed, and sometimes with these short tracks you need exit speed more than the entrance speed if you're going to get around them the clean way. If you want to use that chrome horn, it doesn't really matter. You can get in the corner as hard as you want as long as you actually hit them.
I think the biggest question for me is, what do you do if you're Barnes? Do you try and mirror drive all the way through, or do you just say hit your marks, hit your marks, hit your marks, and figure that they'll mess up behind you? There are definitely two schools of thought that you could use here, but which one do you take? Which path do you choose if you're the driver of that 15 car?
Yeah, it looks like he's able to really not have to worry about it at the moment, as he's able to get just a little bit of a gap between himself and the 69 of Cucker. And it looks like Christian Peterson's also fallen off just a little bit here as well. He's about 1.2 seconds off Kyle Barnes right now, and then you have to go 5 seconds back from Kyle Barnes to get to Scott Naslin, who did make his way around Brad Carpenter that time. And Carpenter goes way wide in the corner this time, and looks like some of these guys, his cars are getting a little ill handling as the runs go on. I believe the only driver that's really done the same thing this whole race is that 15 car of Kyle Barnes, and everyone is, I think, trying to adjust, whereas Barnes is just simply stuck to the bottom this entire race and hasn't really done anything different since then. So about halfway is where we're at right now. 73 is the lap we're on right now, and Cucker appears to have a little bit of a chip right now. He's trying to get right there. They've had his tires cool down those last couple laps, and he's right back on the bumper. Gave him a little bit of shot in the middle of the corner right there in 3 and 4, and it appears that the 69 is giving him a message saying, I'm here, I want to get by you, as we're on lap 74.
So I believe he's right now on the second bump of the night. Of course, it goes first bump, you're okay. Second bump, I want to get by. And the third bump, well, it's going to be probably a little stronger to try and move that 15 out of the way, I have to think. But Matt Cucker trying to undercut the 15 a little bit. You see him run high as we head through the tri-oval right now. He's going to jump to the inside now. You see he gets a different apex through the corner than the 15. I think it's a little bit slower, but if the 15 gets held up by the lap traffic of approaching Kyle Young here, 69 might be able to just nudge the 15 out of the way, get to that inside. It's certainly going to be interesting to see if he can do that.
Yeah, and he's getting closer and closer each and every lap, and when he gets as close as he is right now, the exit speed, I think, is definitely what he lacks, but he's able to go a lot higher. He likes the going higher, and you saw Kyle Barnes actually get on the Kentucky Speedway racetrack right there as they're getting really close to the lap car of Kyle Young right here. This is going to put that number 93 one lap down right here as we approach lap 79 here, and as these lap cars do approach, it's going to make this a little bit harder to protect your position. It's going to be a little bit harder to gain a position, as there's nowhere to go, really. If you're that lap car, you just give them the inside, and even then, that's still not a lot of room. You're actually seeing that 17 slow down a real considerable amount as he continues to do battle with the 93 right there, but that's really, really close here. As we also have a competition caution coming here shortly as well.
Only a handful of laps until that yellow, and I wonder if you're Matt Cucker, if you like that, because I see him, especially in the last 10 laps, he's been trying to get a really good drive off of the corner, and the rear end of the car seems to be sliding around a little bit. Wondering if he might have burned off a little bit of those tires, not to the point where he can't get the bite off corner exit that he really wants to in order to try and run down the 15. So wondering if that reprieve at race pace and going back to behind the pace car for a little bit might actually end up playing in his favor.
And, you know, we actually saw the battle for the lead, the very first lead change. It actually technically wasn't a lead change because Kyle Barnes just assumed the lead once he got by him in turns number 2, was on the start of the race. And if Cucker maybe plays this out right, maybe he just sits behind Barnes for the next few laps, maybe he'll be able to do the same thing. As you can see him get really, really tail happy out of turns number 4 right there. You can definitely tell that 69's car is starting to really wear off here. As we're approaching that caution here, we're on lap number 85. I'd expect it to happen at lap 90 or a little bit beforehand, with the fact that these guys went on around lap 50, about 45 laps for those cautions. And Barnes is actually starting to pull away just a little bit, but as soon as I say that, Cucker comes back on to the bottom, trying to get him. And these threes are here, but there is the caution. There is the competition caution on lap 87.
That'll basically, they'll get maybe one more comp caution if we need it here. 64 laps to go, Austin. So these guys in the span, but I believe actually the way it's going to work out is the pace car decides to go a little off-roading there. I believe once they get to a certain portion of the race, they're not going to throw that competition caution again. So we'll have to double check on that. But yellow's either going to be out one more time or no more times for the rest of the night. We'll just have to find out.
And as we cross the halfway point, we get to our second competition. Caution, we'll take a look at the midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA World of Outlaws, Cars Tour, and many more. Kyle Barnes leads the way with Matt Cucker second, Christian Peterson third, Scott Naslund is in the fourth position, and Brad Carpenter is in fifth.
Sixth place belongs to Taylor Kaufman. Seventh is where you'll find the 61 of James Finn. Last car on the lead lap, Kyle Young. 8th, Adam Rigo. 9th, Jeremy Adams. 10th, all one lap down, and Jody Green out of this race early with a blown engine, scored in 11th this evening.
And that's been a look at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, and you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. Try it with 3 months for less than $5. There's also a 25% discount right now for all continuing members. It had just happened today, actually. We took a look, and that is going on right now. So you can check that out at iRacing.com and iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. It looks like these guys are going to get bunched up 2 by 2 behind the pace car for possibly the last green flag of the night. Kyle Barnes leads the way with Matt Cucker right to his outside. Kyle Barnes has led every single lap tonight, and it appears that we are going to be out of competition caution. It's this way until the end. Only way a caution will come out is if there's actually an accident on the track. Green flag is going to be in the air, and Kyle Barnes, he'll lead these guys on lap 93, and he'll lead another one on the night. Can he get 100 laps in the books for lap sled? We'll just have to see. 2 by 2 behind them as they sort themselves out. And it looks like Cucker's going to be very quick on the attack right here, but he has to watch out for his teammate under him, and there's a really big bunch up behind him, as they're still 2 by 2 later on the pack.
Contact there with, I believe it was Taylor Kaufman that got a boot. Might have been from Kyle Young or Scott Naslund. Couldn't quite tell who was around him, but he got the rear end of that number 30 car uprooted out of the way and nearly went up head first into the outside retaining wall on the front stretch, and couldn't tell who that was that tried to go outside of him, but that person almost got collected as well, so we almost had a 2-car accident. But as it stands, everybody regathered themselves and found a way to get back going again, and it's as you were at the front of the field. Kyle Barnes leading, Cucker and Peterson chasing.
Looks like Peterson's trying a different approach right now. He's trying the second groove a little bit. He's taking what appears to be where the rubber down part of these guys' right side tires is where the middle of his car is. It looks like it's actually rotating fairly well, although he's going the longer distance around the track. So I'm wondering if Peterson's trying to maybe keep these tires a little bit cool down, keep these tires a little bit fresher as long as he can, maybe wait for a mistake from these 2 guys in front of him. These are 2 guys that don't make mistakes. Actually, all 3 of them are guys that don't make mistakes very often, considering how well Cucker's done, considering that Kyle Barnes is a real live driver in a late model as well, and then Christian Peterson has been very well known to do very well in this series as well. So look at these 3, and they're very, very good drivers. None of them really make mistakes, but if one were to happen, they're going to definitely approach it and try and capitalize on it, as Kyle Barnes is just getting his lead a little bit longer here, as we now has 100 laps led tonight.
And I'm starting to wonder if Cucker knew that he had a car that's capable of passing Barnes and was just kind of holding off because he didn't want to get into that battle. And if that's the case and Cucker is going to be able to take that battle to the 15, I have to think the person in the best position is probably going to be Peterson, because he's not having to do any of the hard work. He could just sit behind Cucker, wait for them to go side by side, and then jump on board whichever line's moving. And then all of a sudden, Christian Peterson out of nowhere takes the lead of this race. So I'm curious to see what that 6-man motorsport driver is gonna do, but I think he's waiting for Cucker to make that move first and then just follow him through.
Battles also for the 4th position with Scott Naslin, Brad Carpenter, and Taylor Kaufman. Taylor Kaufman got really loose off of 2 that last time and almost slammed the wall, and you can see that Scott Naslin actually had some severe rear end damage, so looks like some of the action we may not have seen has been with that 33. His rear end of his car has been definitely abused right there, going in one of the corners probably on this last restart. We saw a lot of contact earlier, and that 31 is not out of the thick of it. That 33 is still right there. He's still hunting them down, getting really close to him as this battle rages on here. And it looks like that 31 got really high up the track. Don't know if that's by design, trying to get that banking here. But definitely that 31's trying something different that the guys in front and behind him are only slightly doing.
Looking for some form of way to get around someone here. It's hard to switch up your lines and find more speed. This is really more about throttle control and executing on corner exit and making sure you use the right amount of brake, not too little, not too much on corner entry, which I suppose is true at most tracks, but you notice it especially here because that's really how you make a difference in lap times more than anything. As you see Carpenter go wide, so now Naslin's going to be able to get underneath him, and Naslin, I believe, in a lap or two, maybe even here at the line. Yes, looks like he'll get it at the line. So Naslin now up to the 4th spot. Nope, actually Carpenter had it there still, but there. Now Naslin competes the class, so now Naslin up to 4th.
And all while that happened, Christian Peterson was able to get around Matt Cucker on the front straightaway, and now we'll see what Peterson can do. Let's see if he can hunt down Kyle Barnes with 40 laps to go on this time. Not a lot of time when you consider how fast this race has already gone. Still under half an hour, as these guys have done over 100 laps of battle here tonight, and this is only one of 2 races that's going to be on tonight. So once this race is over, definitely stick around for the super late model race. It's going to be a lot faster here, as these guys right now, see the 23 just getting the wall just a little bit right there. It's not going to help his speed right there, but he is catching him just a little bit. Except for that time by, he's going to lose just a tiny bit. But Christian Peterson is definitely digging in those corners to get everything that's left out of this car. Under 40 laps to go, you'd say, what do you have left in the car? Well, Christian Peterson will show exactly what he's got left.
And I think Peterson is in a very good position because Barnes has to deal with those 3-lap cars that we're seeing in front of him, looking out from the front of Christian Peterson's Chevrolet. For Barnes, he's going to have to catch those guys, and they're probably, considering that there's a battle right in front of them, the 17, I believe the 93 going at it right now. Those guys not going to be content to surrender. You see the 61 get out of the way, James Finn, but then you have lap down guys. That's for position in front of Barnes, and that's going to be Peterson's best opportunity to catch that leader and maybe try and psych him out, grab a different line or something like that. We'll have to see.
And it looks like Peterson actually just got held up just a tiny bit by James Finn coming out of corner number 2. And he did lose a little bit of time. Actually, he gained 2/10 that last time, so Cisco definitely was that was the right call from you. Definitely with these lap cars, seeing what he did. Barnes actually split up that battle between Rigo and Young right there. They were actually battling for position right there, and that's no longer a battle for position as they yield it to the leaders. And look at the 23, almost gets into the 17. With these lap cars, you have to take a little bit extra care of the car and have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings here. As Peterson almost gets into the 93 out of turns number 2. He's really digging right now here.
Trying to find a way to get around him because we're down to 30 laps to go. So gotta start making your move if you're gonna go hunt down Kyle Barnes. The gap doesn't look all that big, but on a track this small, if you can get anywhere from a quarter to a half to 3/4 of a straightaway on someone, that's a pretty sizable gap. So definitely want to try and start running them down if you're Christian Peterson. And if you're Matt Coker, you're just praying that Young doesn't put up too much of a fight, because that's just one more lap car that you have to fight to get around just to get back to the battle for the lead anyway. So lots of people starting to press the issue now, because in the words of our dear friend Andy Kessler, it is indeed go time, and that means it's time to go.
Yeah, speaking of it's time to go, Christian Peterson just about lost it off of turns number 4. If it wasn't for the apron, he would have definitely lost it right there. Lost 0.3 of a second that time by, and I'd say maybe that 23 is just kind of trying to make a last-ditch effort to see if that car has something hidden within it. But that car lost a lot of grip off of turns number 4, lost another 1/10 that time by, and I'd say that the extra effort was definitely plausible to try, but I'd say that that car may be used up. The tires on it to get through the field from 11th to 2nd may have just taken its toll on the 23, and I'd say that Kyle Barnes getting to the point as soon as possible, set the pace for this race, may have been the smartest thing for him to do, and the fact that he had no idea that Jody Green had forgot to take the tape off, but whenever he got the lead, as soon as he did, he was able to set the pace for this race, and really still made those guys come through the field, make them use their tires more than they wanted to, especially for as far back as they started.
Yeah, and Barnes has been able to just put on a clinic. He's been able to open up that gap, get that fresh air onto that nose of that Chevrolet, whereas Coker and Peterson have been together kind of in a pack, so maybe just in the back of their minds they couldn't push it maybe as hard as they wanted. The biggest problem for Barnes right now is he's got about 2 more lap cars I think he's going to have to deal with. Kyle probably not going to push the issue here as he's leading. He doesn't need to. But I think for Peterson, any sort of holdup that Barnes gets from the lap cars, that's just going to help Peterson. He's been trying to close that gap desperately. He's got it down to about 1.1 seconds. But the problem is he just keeps losing it on the straightaway, but he's trying everything he can, driving the wheels off that 23.
Yeah, I'm sure if we get a cockpit view of that 23, you're going to see that wheel moving everywhere. It may not be the fastest car on track, but sometimes when you get a driver behind the wheel that the 23 is, you might be able to get a little bit something more from the car that isn't exactly on the stat sheet. So he's still getting that time down just a little bit, using a little bit of that grass too to his advantage. He's using it out of the corner to try and get that car to rotate a little bit more. And he's still getting a little bit. If he gets that same amount every lap, he'll beat Kyle Barnes before this one's over. We're under 20 laps to go, but he's really got to get around these lap cars efficiently. And he's also got to make sure he at least doesn't completely ruin his tires. I mean, we have less than 20 laps, but there still can be a lot of damage done to these tires. He's actually lost a little bit of time that time. He's lost 0.2 of a second since the last time we talked about him behind him. So he's trying to get around the 30 car right now, and right now that's what's holding him up. And Jeremy Adams is holding up Kyle Barnes right now. That's teammate to these guys too. So this might be interesting. Watching the 15 try and get around Jeremy Adams as well. That was a little bit of a holdup for the 15.
Not a lot, but it's enough to make things a little bit interesting. Watching the gap as they come across the line this time by, went down a 10th, so certainly is still possible, but Christian Peterson's got to find something, and now that looks like Adams isn't going to be part of the picture for Barnes anymore. Barnes is just going to have to worry about Scott Naslund. That's just one less car to lap here and one less car in the way between Kyle Barnes and the checkered flag. So Peterson trying to do everything he can, but he's running out of time. 15 laps to go now.
Yeah, not too much time, just like you said, and in an honest way, the 15's really just about wrapped it up. And, you know, every lap has been led by that 15 car. The very beginning of the race got out of turns number 2, and has really just completely dominated this one. And I think for the 15, he's only running this race. He's not doing double duty, so he was able to really just focus on this set for this race. So I think that really does help when you're talking about all these drivers. Yes, Christian Peterson and Matt Coker both are still doing really well in the championship hunt, but when you get a driver out here who only has to run one race a week, they might actually be able to do a little bit more on the setup, as you're seeing the 23 get around his teammate Jeremy Adams with 10 laps to go here. Definitely, I think that helps as the 15. You know, he is also the admin for the season, so for the series. So you got to imagine that he's got a little bit of he wants to win one, as I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say Kyle's been hungry, and especially what happened to you two on Monday, I would think there's a little bit of an extra drive on the 15 to go out there and win because, of course, Kyle and Austin both ran in the race on Monday. And if you were watching that, I think these guys pretty hungry for a win right now.
Yeah, we definitely were. So it's good to see Kyle up front. And Kyle has always beat me at these tracks before, so he's a hard competitor, and he does not play nice. And if these guys were to give him the chrome horn, he would give it back within a moment, within a heartbeat. And so with about less than 10 laps to go, you know, it's going to be hard to get around all these lap cars. There's 2 in front of Christian Peterson, 2 in front of Kyle Barnes. Basically, he's kind of sandwiching the field right now. And I think Peterson knows at this point, unless something really major happens to Barnes, there's not a whole lot he can do. Wow, look at him get around that last traffic, though. That is a lot better than what Kyle Barnes had to deal with. So it's not completely over till it's over. He's going to completely cut off the 17. It's kind of an all-out drag-out for the 23 right now. He's drifting it in turns 3 and 4. If he doesn't get it here, maybe we at least get to talk to him and say, good job. Oh, look at Kyle Barnes. Yeah, he's going to hit the 31 right there. That's going to bring the 23 into the play right here. It's not over till it's over. 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go at the line. And here they come.
My goodness, lap traffic all of a sudden just coming into play everywhere. So now Peterson's close enough, was close enough to where he could use the bumper, but he overdrove the corner exit there, had to gather it back up. Kyle Young now sitting in front of Kyle Barnes. So the Kyle and Kyle show here right at the front of this, and Peterson drives it in deep, but can he get it done? That's the question.
It's going to be 2 laps to go at the start-finish line this time by, and there's going to be no lap traffic to alter any of this race any longer. It's going to be 2 laps and it's going to be done. Can Christian Peterson get it done? He does not have the car that Barnes has anymore. That is an obvious fact, but can he pride himself there? Can he will it there? He's got 1 lap to figure it out, but I think he's going to be just a little bit short. He absolutely drifted number 1 and 2, but it's going to be Kyle Barnes who's going to win this race. All 150 laps are going to be led by that 15. And what a performance by the 23 as well. Absolutely was driving the wheels off that thing. You saw it those last few laps, had nothing left in those tires, and was able to stay up there still. That was pretty impressive.
I always like to call drivers like the 23, Christian Peterson. If we had it, I'd give it to him, the Tanner Faust Formula Drift Award, because oh my goodness, Peterson was driving the wheels off that pike. And you know, for Kyle Barnes, it's a little bit of a sweeter win. You know, coming off a so close finish on Monday, coming here to Kentucky Speedway, able to get the victory in his series. It's pretty sweet, to be honest.
I am the series admin, and yes, I don't run all the time, but I still know something that you guys might not. I think is effectively what Kyle Barnes has said here tonight, and credit to him. That yellow submarine or banana or whatever we want to call that 15 car, it was quick from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, and it's been, I think, at least 1.5 years since Kyle's won in his own league race. So I think this is pretty special for him. We'll be able to talk to him shortly. It's pretty cool when you can come into your own race and you don't come into race. Kyle Barnes sets this league up so that he officiates it. He doesn't race in these typically. He decided, you know what, Bristol, Kentucky Speedway, I'm going to race these races for fun and just to show that I can do it. So we'll go through the full field rundown and we'll be able to talk to Kyle just shortly about all of that in just a moment. Barnes gets the win, leads all 150 laps. Christian Peterson drove the wheels off that thing, give him the Tanner Faust Award, courtesy of Cisco, and then Matt Cucker, he gets the 3rd position. Scott Naslin, 1 lap down, finishes 4th, with Brad Carpenter finishing 5th.
Last car 1 lap down was Taylor Kaufman in the 30, who finished 6th. James Finn in the 61 finished 7th. Then it was Jeremy Adams, 8th. Last car 2 laps down along with Finn. Kyle Young and Adam Rigo finished 9th and 10th, both 3 laps down, and Jody Green blew the motor early, was out early, finishes in 11th.
And now we're going to talk to Kyle Barnes, who has made his way to victory lane. It's got to be pretty sweet. I think it's been about a year and a half since you've won one of your own races, Kyle, and I think it was in a street stock, so you get to do it in a car you're very familiar with this week here at the Legends Oval. Talk to us about how it worked out for you. You got the lead immediately and led every single lap since.
Yeah, I was just able to get a good jump on green there. When the green flew, I had a second gear setup, so it was kind of like running a modified in the corners on the restarts. I just go first to second, and when I did, I realized how much of a boost I got going down in turn one, cut down in front of him. Luckily, he slowed down enough to where he didn't knock me off the track, and was kind of able to set the pace from there. I wanted to kind of show a little bit in that first segment of the race, just kind of put it out there that I was going to be up there to stay. And then as the segments went on, I was able to move around the track as planned and use the banking a little bit more to loosen the car up as it got tighter.
Yeah, we noticed that whenever the runs got on, you were still stuck to the inside, like right next to that grass, and it was obvious that you were basically the only car out there that could do it, especially for the long haul. When Peterson and Cucker got to you, they had to get through the whole field to get to you, and that once they did, you still had saved your stuff, and you could see Christian Peterson doing everything he could. I mean, we gave him the quote-unquote Tanner Faust award for the night for being able to hold on to the thing, but you were able to conserve so much but still be fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And funny enough, this is actually Christian Peterson's setup. We did a little preview race last winter, at the Charlotte Legends Oval. Me and Christian worked together to build a setup, and he actually gave me that one, getting ready to go green in that race. And I kind of just tweaked it a little bit here and made it a little bit tight in the beginning of the run to where I could stay on the bottom and didn't have to worry about it kicking out on me. And then as it continued to get tighter, I was able to adjust my brake bias and use that banking going into turn one to really get it sideways and just flat footed off the corner. So I guess I got to thank Christian Peterson first for the win. But those guys ran me really clean. They hit me in the corners, but they let me gather it back up. So overall, that's why I love these guys so much. Is they know how to race hard, but they know how to race hard without wrecking each other. So it's always a privilege to come down here and race with them when I can, because normally I'm up in the booth. But to get a win in the Cars eSport Tours is really huge for me.
Yeah, I think this might be a first for us to interview the winner and the league owner at the same time for winning the race. It's I think that's it's interesting. I'm curious to see who you have to thank there, Kyle.
First and foremost, I gotta say thanks to the Cars Tour. Without them, this series would not be possible at all. Tony, Chris, everybody over there at that series has came on board with Championship Esports Association and supported us and pretty much given us anything that we really needed as far as promotional or anything like that. So huge shout out to those guys for letting us put on such a high quality series. I gotta thank these guys that run in it. Also LSRTV, Fort Chiswell RV Park, and there's just a whole host of guys that I would have to thank, but we just don't have time for it.
All right, there you have it. Kyle Barnes wins the race. And we'll be seeing him in the booth for the next race. Good to talk to you, Kyle.
Thank you.
And we're going to go down to James Pike, who's going to be a hold of Christian Peterson, who finished in the second position.
On pit road here at the Legends Oval with Christian Peterson. And Christian, we were up in the booth and we were wondering if you knew just how much you had to push it, because we know you saw Kyle in that front windshield and you meant to win this race, so you knew you had to go get him. And it certainly wasn't for a lack of trying, especially in those final few laps, because you went fast and furious, almost Tokyo drifting style around these corners here. I suppose Tanner Faust style, if we're going to go with Cisco's reference of the day. But all references here are welcome on LSRTV. But the point being, you really gave it everything you had in that last few set of laps.
Yeah, man. Once I got by Cucker there, I don't know, it was somewhat a bunch of laps to go. I think it was like around 50 to go or something. He said, go get him. And I tried, man, but my pedals were a little screwed up tonight, and no excuses. Not trying to make excuses, but I didn't have full throttle. I only had about a little bit over half, and it started to get gradually worse as the night went on. And I think if I had a little bit more power, I could have, made the car turn a little bit more off the turn. But all in all, like, that was an awesome race. I love these little bull ring tracks. Hats off to Kyle for, you know, I don't know how many laps he led. He led a lot of them, but right at the end there, when I saw all those lap cars in front of him, I said, ooh, maybe I got a shot. I think there was like 10 or 11 laps to go when that happened. And he got into it with the 31, I think it was, Brad. Yeah, he got into it with him, and I gained like a bunch of ground on him. And I think there was like 3 to go at that point. And I think I just tried a little bit too hard to get it. But you know, we'll come home with a P2 and be happy with it.
Nothing too complicated, nothing too crazy. I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you, Christian, so we'll let you go ahead and get ready for the Supers feature. But before you do, just go ahead and give your shout-outs and let people know who makes it happen for you in that 23 team.
Just everybody at Vincia Racing, Jeremy, Matt, Brad, John, Wade. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, Scott. Everybody that just puts in time. We play other games together, all that good stuff. We have a bunch of fun over there. So I know I got 6-man on the car. I always rep that, but right now we're working with Vincia and having a lot of fun.
I suppose last question before we let you go here. That pedal issue, is that something that we're going to see fixed up before the next race, I assume?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Most definitely. I'm going to go down there and take the sensor off, get that all cleaned up, and hopefully it'll be good to go for the next one.
Alrighty, well, we'll look forward to seeing you out there. I'll see if we talk to you here once again in just a little bit.
All right, hope so, James. Thank you.
So there's Christian Peterson, runner-up here tonight in the late model stock feature at the Legends Oval. And now, how about we toss it to Cisco Scaramuza, who has found Matt Coker, who finished in 3rd place and is the man that we will talk to next.
Yeah, and Matt, you had a really decent run up front all day, and it didn't pan out towards after the last restart, but talk us through it. You were up there battling with Barnes for a long time, and how was the race out there for you?
Yeah, well, the race started off, the car felt great. I mean, it was really great up until that last restart when I started on the outside there when I was behind Kyle, and I just couldn't do nothing with him after that. It was like something happened with the tires, or I'm not sure, but all in all, it was a decent night. I can't complain. Just added to the point lead a little bit, having Jeremy finishing it back there. But we'll see what happens in the super late model.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking forward to that. And what can you take out of this late model stock race into the super late model race?
That I have to make a lot of adjustments because my super late model was set up pretty much the same way the regular late model was. I'm just going to have to set it up to where I can rotate through the corner a little bit better because that's where Kyle was beating me. I could get to him getting in and through the center, but he'd just be able to rotate center off, and that's where he killed me, and I couldn't do nothing.
Well, Matt, you finished 3rd here today. Add on to that point lead, like you said. Sponsors, shout-outs, who gets it done for you in the Vincia team?
I got to thank iAnalyze, Globalcom, Rowdy's Wraps and Designs, Kamikaze Webworks. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be racing, so thank you, LSRTV for broadcasting, and CEA for putting it on.
All right, well, that's Matt Coker. He finishes 3rd, and I'm going to send it up back to the booth, Austin, but we talked about what these drivers were going to be able to take away from the race, and, well, I think we just got a good idea of what that's going to be from Matt there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Can take that information from the first race and then apply it to the second race. Yeah, you've got less weight and more horsepower on these cars, but still a lot of plies. The tire wear is still really similar, and they're going to take the virtual sprinklers out on the infield grass here and wipe a lot of the worn down rubber here, and they're going to have a pretty clean track to go on and race on here just a little bit for the super late model. So it'll be just like the last race was started, just kind of making that track real clean. And it was pretty good for these guys to run as hard as they did, but another good race nonetheless. After Kyle Barnes gets that win, we will take a short break, and we will get the super late models underway in just a little bit and see which one of these drivers will get the win for this next one. We'll see you around the corner here on LSRTV.
actually, really enjoy dirt racing. Feels good to get in the car, and we have, great cars and engines and things at KKR, so it's nice to drive a fast sprint car.
Couple of separate lines developing, three wide action on a turn two. Craig Kinzer, Casey Kane, and Kieran Pittman going at it.
I think the differences between, NASCAR and the sprint races on dirt is just a much different mindset. The way you drive your cars, the setup, the feel you're looking for. I think one of the hardest things to tell as a fan is when you're watching a race, whether it's a NASCAR race, a dirt race, is just what's really going on in the car. With iRacing, you can get the way that the track's changing, which they've done a great job in how the track changes throughout the night or throughout the race, just to try to capture it and let the fans play it and realize, like, man, there's actually a lot going on, and you can't always see that when you watch a race. So I think it's pretty neat. It's, enjoyable for me, but at the end of the day, it's actually much of a simulation, and there's a lot of ways that you can learn from that. And, early on, it was neat to look at the Cup tracks that I was going to, places that I had never been. So I think it kind of gives you a head start leading into a weekend. It's pretty real life, and that's pretty neat.
Welcome back to the Kentucky Speedway Legends Oval, as we're going to get the super late models here going in just a little bit. Up here in the booth, myself, Austin Cute, next to James Pike and Cisco Scarmuza as well. Here for the second race of the night, we had the late model stocks earlier. Kyle Barnes won that, led every lap, all 150 of them. We're about to get another 150 laps here as we're going to wash the track off just a little bit and get these guys rolling.
Gonna be a lot of fun to see these guys take it on and go through the same sort of ringer that our late model stock drivers went through just a little bit ago. And I think the most important question is, what did Christian Peterson learn off of his late model stock run that he can use to try and win this race? No Kyle Barnes in this feature, so one less guy to worry about, I suppose. But again, I think it goes back to the same principles, and maybe even more so with the extra power these cars have. Save your equipment, because we saw, especially at the end of the late model stock race, everybody was sliding all over the place here, and I figure that that will also be the case, maybe even more so in the super late model race here coming up.
Yeah, the points as well. Also something that's a little bit to talk about. We have a really close race for those as well. We'll give it to Cisco, who's got our points update.
Yeah, and what's different about these points is that Christian Peterson leads these standings, unlike Matt Cucker, who leads the late model stock tour. Those guys a little bit different, but similar names up front: Christian Peterson, Kyle Young, Jeremy Adams. Same guys, just a little bit different order, Austin, but it stands to reason that Christian Peterson has to learn something from this race, and already setups going around trying to figure out how Christian Peterson can gain some speed on that car and make sure he can open up that points gap to Cucker here running into this race tonight.
Yeah, he's also got to worry about that hardware issue for his wheel and pedal set. You know, he said that he could not go full throttle. Sadly, getting in the super late model does not change that when you're still using the same wheel and pedal set. So definitely something that he's got to figure out. Probably was working on after the interview, and I'm sure that it might have just taken a reset or something. You know, have you tried turning it off and on again? He might have tried that, but you know, we've got a lot of differences between these cars, and I'd say we're going to see these cars get a lot squirrelier. These are a lot harder to handle in the corners, especially when they're this flat.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky, I think, but it goes back to throttle control and brake control and rolling into it, which is so slight and so easy to screw up because you're working with such fine points that you need to hit. But it's everything here, and he who can kind of nail down the details of braking and getting off the throttle in a place like this, that really is going to make the difference once we get a few green flag laps in.
And as the warm-up has ended, John Ollett, he will get the pole for tonight's race, the 13.186, about 0.8 faster than the pole for the late model stock race. That's the Merchant. He gets that second position. Cody McCauley will start third. Brad Carpenter starts fourth, and Jeremy Adams starts fifth.
John Lyday makes his debut in this season's super late model tour here at the Cars eSport Tour tonight by starting sixth. Kyle Young, currently third in points, will start seventh. Eighth place is where you'll find the 05 of Scott Austin. And then you've got Matt Cooker and Christian Peterson starting 9th and 10th in tonight's super late model feature.
Yeah, and gotta look at the fact that this is a 10-car field, and they do a payout for the top 10 paying positions. So all these drivers, no matter what happens, they will get some form of payment after this race is over. So if you're interested in being a part of that, you can go to championshipesports.com to be a part of that. So definitely look at that. No matter what, all these drivers are going to make some form of cash. John Ollett will start these guys. We also want to have join in Gabe Wood. He's going to be joining us in the booth tonight. As these guys roll around this flat track, I do want to mention that they'll have one more lap until the green. John Ollett starts up front behind the pace car. The lights are off. That's the Merchant starts in that second position. These guys go around this very flat, very short track. Going to be getting going here in just a little bit of lap, just a little bit. 150 more laps to go before the night is complete for the Cars eSport Tour. John Ollett, he will get these guys to the first laps of this race. And the 32 and the 81, they're off. And just like earlier, the outside line goes really well. And we saw a repeat of this earlier. And the second place driver will get the lead. And we are seeing a lot of bumping and banging in the corners. The 3 of John Leday, he gets in the rear end of the 62 of Cody McCauley. They're going in the corners. And these guys already on lap number 2.
Already on 2, coming in 3, and Seth the Merchant, of all people, getting it done right now and finding a way up to the front of this field. And then Roulette's settled into second. And then you've got Cody McCauley in third, Brad Carpenter fourth, Lede fifth, Adam sixth, Cook or seventh, Peterson already making his way around Scott Austin and Kyle Young. So trouble, I guess, for Young. Seems like he just hasn't had a good handle on this track all night, but they're trying to stack up in front of him as best they can, but it's still pretty much bumper to bumper up at the front of the field.
Yeah, it looks like teammates of Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson actually got into each other. So a 23 is going to have some front end damage. That could prove to be a hindrance later on in the race. We saw a blown engine in the last race, not due to damage, but definitely had something to do with a little bit of the front end being improperly set up. So a little bit of damage for these cars can really be a big deal because of how much they're going to be on the throttle and off the throttle, making that engine fluctuate in torque and power. You're going to see that number 69 get around. It looks like that's going to be the Jeremy Adams machine. That's the 89, and he's going to let two cars by. He's going to let the 23 by as well. So looks like some of these guys are going to be getting around, but that lead is getting very close to Seth Merchant, John Alette, and Cody McCauley. Gabe, these guys are getting really close here on the front stretch.
Going to be really tight here the next few laps, and I think especially as they start slipping up, we'll have to wonder who makes the first mistake and who opens the door to let a pass happen. I think everybody's just trying to hang on more than anything. I'm not necessarily anybody who's really got a handle for this track yet. Might take a few more laps where these tires and these cars really come in, and you see the peak of the lap times as we see. Oh goodness, Cody McCauley decided to get loose there on corner exit. Had the rear end of that car dirt tracking and sliding all over the place. And again, everybody just trying to apply a little bit too much power on corner exit. You see what happens. You burn off the rear tires.
Yeah, and John Alette's not going anywhere. Jody Green didn't earlier as well, but it looks like John Alette's able to just stay with them. He did get that pole by a good margin, but it does appear that he's still able to be up there. Definitely gotta look at those restarts though, because that outside line actually may prove to be a little bit more useful on those restarts with the fact that you do have the banking up there. So definitely something we've seen on the start of both races, that the driver in second was able to get to the lead almost immediately and has led it all laps so far in both races. Seth Merchant continues to have it going for him, and John Alette's not going anywhere. He's still applying pressure here as we cross lap number 15 here.
Well, Austin, you say he's not going anywhere, but it looks like he's starting to fall back about a car, half a car length, maybe a lap. By the way, good to be up here in the booth tonight. A little bit of a late call, and I wish the alarm clock worked just a little bit better. I would have been here earlier.
Yeah, and see these guys. It looks like the 62 of Cody McCauley. He's going to be running all over the back bumper of the 81. Yeah, just as you said, it looks like the 81 might be struggling just a little bit here, about halfway between the run, or yeah, about halfway between these runs. These guys do have a competition caution that's around 50 laps of competition. So once we get to that point, if there's no contact, 40 laps of competition, so about halfway there already. Sometimes these cars got to be tuned to go the long haul, but they do get that small break in between. So seeing that 32 still under fire, let's come back alive here in the exit of that glass corner. Seems like he's able to get there in the middle of the corner. This is kind of what we saw with Kyle Barnes and the rest of his competitors in the last race, that they were able to get into the corner well, but on the exit of the corner, the leader kind of has an advantage, as we've seen in both races.
Cody McCauley closing in that gap. He almost gets close enough to put the bumper to him on the exit of turn number 2 onto that little short chute on pit road. But it actually ended up the way he exited turn 2, he lost a lot of momentum. So now he's got to gain that back just a little bit. I mean, running here at the Legends Oval, anywhere you run it, you almost have to be a road racer, getting on, getting off, getting into a rhythm. And if you have to screw up that rhythm at any point, like the 62 of Cody McCauley just did, you've got to reset yourself. It takes about 3 laps just to get your mind right, and the 81 screws up turn 2, and now he has pounced the 62 of Cody McCauley to the back bumper here on lap number 22.
Yeah, with as much horsepower these guys have off the corner, you can see him do really well. Look at the number 62 of Cody McCauley gets that position. Looks like the 81 actually let him by on the front straightaway, and so Cody McCauley gets an easy pass there. Was held up just a little bit, but Cody McCauley looks to get the job done, and he is absolutely closed the gap between himself and the 32. About halfway there, about 5/10 that last lap, and he is already there going for the lead. Very, very close combat here. going for the lead. This will be the first pass we see for the night if the 62 can get the job done, but when does he do it? Lap 25 is what we're on, coming to lap 26, and I'll tell you what, that 62 has got a lot under the hood right now. We have not seen anyone do this all night long to any of the leaders, and at 62, when does he make the move?
That's the big question, I think. And I think the one thing we can say is that Macaulay's found something that nobody else has found here yet tonight. Whether or not he's just pressing the tires a little bit harder, or it's legit speed, or a change in line in comparison to Merchant, or something. Can't necessarily tell at this moment, but Macaulay is definitely the faster of the two cars here at the front of this field. But I think they also need to be careful, because if they wait around too long, and I think especially if Macaulay waits around too long, it'll bring Ouellette back into this, it'll bring Carpenter back into this, and oh, by the way, guess who's behind Carpenter? Matt Coker and Christian Peterson. So can't wait too long if you're going to make this pass. If you're going to do it and you're Macaulay, make it happen soon.
James, I'm looking at these. Sorry, I'm looking at these lines. Cody Macaulay, it looks like he's able just to get to the brakes harder and get that car to rotate off of exit. Except the Merchant, it looks like he's just trying to get back to the gas a little bit harder, a little bit faster, now that he's seen a faster cars behind him. And here he goes to the inside, able to get that inside jump, but the momentum for the 32 is set to the Merchant. Just pays off there, but he keeps pounding that inside lane. I think he's going to eventually pass him.
Not only will he get the inside, but he's also going to start using his stuff up a little bit for this for that number 62 machine, getting the right side there on the very bottom. If that's the Merchant plays his cards right, actually he's going to get hit right there off of turns number 2. That's the last place you want to hit, guys, because you're going to give him more speed in the corners, but perhaps he thought he'd be able to get him a little wiggly, maybe get him off the throttle before turns number 3. There's not that much space between the exits of the corners and the entrances of the corners, so possibly that was his thought process through that. But the 62 is definitely there, and like you said, Gabe, it's definitely one of those things where if you get to him and you can give him a little bit of a bump, you may be able to move him out of the way, but these guys are coming.
They're making a move. They're trying to make things happen, and you can see that front 5, 6 start to bunch up just a little bit. So it makes me wonder if the Merchant might have run the tires off of that number 32 just a bit. It's certainly a possibility, because now it's not just Macaulay that's coming for him. Everybody started to come back towards the front of this field, though. It could be interesting to see what happens here, but also have to take in mind the fact that we're going to get a competition caution here within a few laps.
Yeah, it's also possible, like you're saying, that with this competition caution that Cody Macaulay may just be holding off, but it doesn't look like it. He is still applying the pressure to Seth the Merchant here and making him really work for it. Look at the battle behind him, though. John Ouellette gets moved out of the way by the 69 of Matt Cucker, and Cucker's going to be on the bottom and get that position, and Ouellette may be trying to get that back. It's not going to happen right there, and we saw how fast he was in the last race. Can he be this fast in this race? Only a few laps left. Actually, just 2 laps left until we're
move for the lead.
And he's going to get that right there. The 32 gets moved out of the way by the 62, and he's going to move him back into turns number 3 and 4. And we're going to have 1 lap until that, and that was a really good move to the inside by the 62. He was watching and waiting for it that whole time. And you can see the distance. Caution flag's going to wait for the competition caution, and you saw the speed that the 62 had as soon as he got away from the 32 there, guys.
What a move by the 62 of Cody Macaulay. He ran that inside lane. It just worked at it, and Cody Macaulay able to get past. But the one driver I want to look for, we just saw him come up through the field, the 69 of Matt Coker. That car, that 69 machine, looks absolutely on a rail for the past few laps. I think he's finally found a rhythm. That 69, starting on the inside lane for this restart, he's going to be one driver to look for.
Yeah, a lot of names everywhere, and kind of in different places than I think we would expect. Christian Peterson still in 5th. Scott Austin, we expected him to move up through the field. We saw him do really well last time we were on about 2 weeks ago, and he has not moved up as quickly as he thought, but that's what these competitions are going to really help these guys. Possibly the guys at the back of the pack right now are still saving their stuff. It is a shorter track, so bunching them up does help. You have to keep that in mind, that this is a track that can really wear down those right side tires. We saw how hard it was on Christian Peterson that last race, how he was absolutely wheeling it around this flat track, making it look like a drifting competition out here. So that's, I think, one of the biggest things to pay attention to is Seth the Merchant had a really good car right out of the gate, and maybe having these tires cool down is going to help him out here, James.
Should be beneficial, you would think. And the other thing that comes to my mind is whether or not that outside line is going to be as useful as it's been, especially at the beginning of both of these races. We saw at the top of the late model stock race and the super late model race that the outside line was the place to be. That's how the Merchant got the lead in the first place. So will it be the same way here once we hit a second restart and a third? Or has this track rubbered in on the bottom enough to where that inside line's now a strong place to be?
So already going to under our first competition caution, and our first lead change under regular conditions happens at this point as well. The 62 of Cody McCauley will get these guys to the green flag this time by. And when does he go? Green flag is in the air, and there he goes. He's going to get a humongous lead. The 69 of Cucker, he's going to be in a great spot right there. He's going to get under the number 32, and he's going to be side by side with him going into turns number 3. The outside has not been a terrible place to be, but at this point in this junction, cars have not erupted the track in enough. That looks like the 32 is going to have to secede the position right there, and looks like the 23 is right there to almost capitalize right there as well. There's a little bit of action behind them as well as the first 5, they get themselves sorted out, and look at the 89 as well. Jeremy Adams on the inside of the 31 of Brad Carpenter.
Battle for the lead settles down, but the battle between Jeremy Adams and looks like John Leday actually was the big loser in that, because he was making a run to the inside. That 3 machine that actually ended up getting almost spun on that restart. So that 3 machine has a lot of work to do. He's got Scott Austin behind him in that 0-5. They're going to bring him up the rear of the field in 8th and 9th respectively.
Yeah, look at Christian Peterson. He's all the way up to 3rd. We saw him just a couple positions behind not too long ago. Gets by old teammate of Seth the Merchant, is now going to look up to Matt Cucker, his teammate right now. And looks like Cucker's also looking to McCauley, who's that leader right now. And these top 3 have been really competitive all season. Looking at these guys through the corner, it looks like Cucker has a really fast car right now. Is able to get through those corners excellently right now, and he's able to stay towards the bottom of the track mostly. Doesn't have to rely on that extra part of the track towards the top. So expect that 69 to be able to run down that 62. So it appears that guy has a faster car and does start to get in those corners a little bit. He's right next to the grass, as we saw Kyle Barnes do in the last race.
Right there on the apron. That's the thing that I was about to say, is that you look at this front 3. McCauley's coming up a little bit onto the banking. Cooker's staying right on that line between the apron and the banking, and Peterson's using as much banking as he can. And we saw how that played out in the first race. Kyle Barnes ran the line that Matt Cooker's running for the most part and got the victory, and Peterson had his tires all worn off. And I have got to believe now maybe that extra little bit of distance might end up hurting him in the end. If it makes the car faster now, you might be trading off some speed towards the end of this race for a little bit of extra speed now, which you can do, and maybe things change. Maybe in the super late model car things are a little bit different, but something that I think we definitely should take note of and be ready to compare when we get towards this race's end.
Yeah, looks like Cooker's kind of sizing up his enemy right now. I'd say that Cooker does have the speed, does have the car to make the pass happen right now. But with the laps still, there's still a lot of laps, still a competition caution, still at least 1 caution that's going to happen before the end of this race. I'd say that number 69 doesn't really have to pressure at all, because of the fact that he's not being pressured either by the 23. And you can kind of size up your enemy, size up what you've got. He's also got a little bit of damage from his teammate from earlier on in the race to think about as well, where the 62 did not have to deal with that at all. So look at that guy to maybe be sizing up just a little bit right here as he continues to look forward for that lead.
Now, Austin, I gotta be a little bit disagreeing with you. That 69 looks like he's got the car to catch the 62, but does he have the car to pass him? Because we saw the 62 with Cody McCauley. He worked on the back bumper for the good part of 30 laps to get around Seth the Merchant, and he finally caught a lucky break and was able to get around him. But here on these Legends Ovals, it is, really the most difficult thing in the world to pass, especially in a full-bodied stock car. So that 69 of Matt Coker, he's got to have one heck of a car and one heck of a run off the bottom to get around the 62 anytime soon.
Well, he definitely has in weeks past. He's second in points, looking at McCauley. Yeah, Cody McCauley, who has actually had a couple of good weeks. Had his first race just last week and scored himself or has entered one of these races, but has not completed one of these races yet. So he's definitely looking to make a statement here for this time around. And that 69, he's getting pretty dang close to him this time. And I think just little chips away for that 69 is what definitely going to help that guy about halfway through until the next competition caution. And you're seeing that 69 get ever so close to the 62's rear bumper, almost getting into him right there out of turns number 4, or in turn number 3 actually. And it's just ever so close. Try not to make the wrong move, I'd say, is something that 62 and 69 are really working on. A single mistake at a track like this can really hurt you.
Might be the issue here. Boy, did Macaulay come really close to driving himself across the nose of Coker's number 69 car. So could be a really tight one there. Coker coming right down on the apron still. It's gonna get interesting, especially if this holds all the way through towards the end of this race. We get towards 20 laps to go, 15 laps to go, 10 laps to go. Do you think Coker's going to give as much room to the 62 as he is right now? Because I get the sense that could end up being a little hot spot of action before too long.
While all the action is going on, we do want to give a shout out to our friends at Joel Real Timing. Coverage of the Cars eSport Tour is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend time on the sim, behind the wheel, or on the pit box, from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for all your scoring and timing needs. Get your basic download or get the pro version today at joelrealtiming.com. Battle up front still closing in, but that 23 and 69 are starting to sandwich that 62. It's getting closer and closer as this 10-lap run left now.
Now, James, you bring up the fact that as we get closer to the finish of tonight's race, will that 69 put the bumper to the 62? I don't think he may put the bumper. He might. But the way he's driving that front straightaway, I think he's going to try this move, stay to the bottom, use that inside lane, get the car to turn, but then drive it in just a little bit deeper, get side by side, and just try and hang on to it here with about 5 laps to go. That would be the move to win the race, especially with that 23 behind him.
Looks like the official count for the competition caution will actually be pushed back until lap 86, but look at teammates going after it now. 23 of Christian Peterson actually just gave a tiny little of a bump to that 69 right there, and you can definitely see the different lines that these guys are having because of the fact that, look at Christian Peterson go to the inside of his teammate right there. Goes to the inside and makes it happen. He's still going to be right there side by side going to the corner. Cucker, like earlier on tonight, is going to have to let his teammate by as we cross halfway. And what can Christian Peterson do on the 62 right now? What can that 23 do? He's got a lot of right front damage, but that's not slowing him down right here.
Oh, Macaulay didn't get a good run through the corner. It's going to open up the door for Peterson, who slides it in underneath. Can he make the pass happen as they go across the front straight and into one? Yes, new leader, the number 23 car. The points leader, Christian Peterson, for a moment, though, because here comes Macaulay with the crossover. So the 62 will go underneath. Can Peterson hang it out up high and stick with it? He'll hang on to the lead at the stripe, but can he hang on to the lead on track, or is he going to give it up? I think he might have to here. So Macaulay back to the front, trading positions.
Wow, a lot of action going out there on the track, and the only thing that hurts them is the fact that they are wearing down on their tires when they do that, when they do all that side-by-side action and crossing over. It's only going to hurt, and you can see Christian Peterson got a little loose off of turns 2, and look at the 62. He's going to slide it to turns number 3 and 4, and he somehow saves that car. It's going to really wear down those tires, though. With the new model, I'd say those tires are pretty heated up with the fact that he slid all the way through turn number 3 and 4, and that was with no help. That was all by himself. And wow, what a save by the 62. Don't know if that's going to help. The only thing that's going to help him is this competition caution. It's going to come in 5 laps, but what a drift by that 62.
Worst part about it, you slide once, you continue to slide. Those tires get heated up one time. Here comes Peterson to the inside with a little bit of a move on that Kentucky front straightaway to the inside of turn number 2. They're side by side, door banging into 3. Here comes Peterson. This time he'll get the lead. Oh, another hit there on the front straightaway. That 23 still side by side. He got the lead that time he actually got beat to the line that time by the 62, but here they come. This is going to allow the 69 to get back into the picture. 23, Christian Peterson to the lead, and this time he'll get to keep it.
These guys are being absolutely hard on each other, and it's producing some great racing up here for us here in the booth. The 23 now is able to stretch his legs just a little bit as he gets away from the 62, and I think the good thing for the 62 is it's almost over for just a little bit. Let the tires cool down, but wow, what a battle for the lead. It was 32, then the 62, then the 23, and then they went back and forth a couple times, and now Christian Peterson, he will get the lead, and he's going to stretch his legs, get the lead a little bit higher. He's going to get about half a second over the 62 of Cody McCauley here, and now we kind of just wait for this competition to caution to come out, and there it is, just as I say it, and these guys will be under caution at lap 87.
Pretty good timing by my standards, I'd say, for our competition caution to come out here. And I suppose might not necessarily be a bad time to look at our running order since we have crossed the halfway point. So how about it? Let's take our midway race break for the super late models, which is brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and, of course, the Cars Tour. So, currently working lap 89 of 150 in tonight's feature. Christian Peterson just got the lead a few laps ago. Cody McCauley running in the second spot as it stands. Then you've got Matt Coker in third, Seth DeMerchant in fourth, and John Ouellette running in the fifth position.
Rounding out the next 5 drivers, Jeremy Adams, he's in 6th place. Brad Carpenter, 7th. John Leday, he's in the 8th position with Scott Austin in 9th. And rounding out the 10-car field is Kyle Young.
And that's been a look at your iRacing Midway race break. And for more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of an exclusive promo code to get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for half off. Or you can simply give it a try with a 3-month membership for less than $5. Again, if you're interested, go visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So, we had Seth DeMerchant lead. We had Christian Peterson take the lead. We had a whole bunch of people try and fight up at the front. Should be fun to see what happens here now that we should be going green to the rest of the way.
Yeah, we got teammates on the bottom of the track right there, 23 and 69 and then we also have some other drivers back into the picture. We've got the 62. He's going to be still right there. He's going to get those tires cooled off. We got the 32 of Seth DeMerchant. He's back in it. John Ouellette, who was your pole sitter, he's going to be back in it. This will be the last chance for these guys to have a shot at it, make sure that they can do something here. We have not seen a single accident all night tonight. I think with the way these guys have been driving, that might change here tonight. Cody McCauley on the outside, but Matt Coker, he's going to be all over the back bumper. These guys are all squirrely all over the front straightaway. In the 23, he is going to get a great jump. These guys are absolutely everywhere. Looks like John Ouellette, he's going to somehow save it. 69 of Matt Coker. He's going to the inside. He's going to spin him out, and it's going to bring out the caution right there. Looks like that spin was saved just by a little tiny hit, but that is going to bring out the caution just because the 69 was over 90 degrees sideways. Saved it, but not in time to get that caution to be waived. So we're going to be under caution at lap number 94.
Fortunate there for the 62. Caution comes out, but he's going to maintain that second spot, so he will start on the first row outside. But Christian Peterson, the way that they restarted like that, we should expect that for the rest of the night. You know, Austin, and he was able to just to pull away because, you know, second, third, fourth, they were all fighting to try and get to that inside. I think Christian Peterson's got this in hand. He's shown he's got the fastest car in the later stages. That 23, he's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, looking at these guys, and then the thing about it is the 69 was the cause of the caution, but at the same time, he got a position from that. The 62 is the reason he got spun around, but he was able to continue to keep that position. I think that's pretty impressive for that machine and that team right there. They now have the first 2 spots, and I'd say that Cody McCauley now has the opportunity to get that position back with everything going on. And it just brings the field back again. I said that we probably would have our first caution for a legit racing incident, and fair enough, it did happen here. So I don't think that's the end of it, though.
We'll see. I think it all depends on whether or not they can get going here on this restart. Very, very, very interesting to see whether or not they can keep it together here. But I feel like if we give them 10 laps and they stick it together, we might just go green the rest of the way.
Yeah, we're going to have about 50 laps to go here, coming to, looks like 1 to go as these guys are behind the iRacing official pace car. And yeah, it might just be 1 more left with these guys, and they'll have 50 laps to put everything on the table. They actually still have another extra lap or so to go, still behind the pace car. Its lights are still on. You know, Gabe, with these guys getting so close to each other, I think there's got to be somebody who in this mix who kind of pops out that might be a dark horse, or somebody that we're not exactly thinking of. Maybe the 32 or maybe the 81 might be able to come back into this.
Yeah, that 81 was exactly who I was about to mention. You know, he started the race off in second. Seemed like he had a fast car on the short run in the early goings of the first few laps, and then just continued to slide back and slide back. You know, Christian Peterson or the 62, Cody McCauley, any of these guys get into a little bit of trouble here on this restart. That 81's going to pounce. He's shown he's got some decent speed, and he might be able to, you know, just kind of hard charge it into turn number 1 and take the lead.
Green flag is out for Matt Cucker, and the rest of the field looks like Matt Cucker actually gets a little sideways, and actually Christian Peterson was the one to lead these guys to the green. He got a little bit wiggly on the inside there. These cars are not handling as well as those late model stocks earlier on, and you can see the difference here. And looks like the 62 is going to continue to put the pressure on the inside line. Looks like the inside is where you want to be on those restarts as always, and he's going to get the job done. Now he's going to chase Christian Peterson, the defending series champion of the super late models here for this one. And Christian Peterson, he's a hard one to beat, and he's also the championship leader right now, so definitely has a chip on his shoulder. Definitely says, I need to be where I'm at. 23 is leading the way.
23 is leading the way, and I think if you're Coker especially, you're shaking your boots a little bit, because those are even more points that you give up, and it's just a chance for Peterson to go extend his points lead. You've got to find a way to reel him back in, because you know you're going to have to beat him a few times in order to make things happen. He's already got 1 more win than you do. You don't want to make that number 2 wins, because that's just more work you have to do on the back end of the series, unless you feel like we come up to one of these tracks in the schedule later on in the season where you really can make it up to him, or if you think he might get caught up in trouble. But you know, we're starting to get towards the midway point of the season. You have to kind of start thinking about points if you're willing to be in contention with the championship. We go visit South Boston on October 18th to close the season out.
Yeah, looks like Matt Cucker just got the job done around Cody McCauley the hard way down on the restart. So McCauley loses the position to Cucker, and Cucker can go and see his sights on his teammate of Christian Peterson. They got into it earlier on in the race, and looked like Christian Peterson was the one giving it to the 69. He was the hammer, and the 69 was the nail. And I'd say maybe if it comes to later on, it might be the other way around. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail in these situations, but only if he can get to him. Just about 40 laps to go with this thing. It's still a long ways to the end. We saw the race change in the last 5 laps in the last race, so anything can happen with these guys. And watching the lap times of Peterson and Cucker, they are very similar. In fact, they are almost identical just about every other lap here, as now been able to have a little bit of separation. 1.2 seconds is what's the difference between these top 2 drivers, and they're not the only ones doing battle for 5th and 4th also is going to be happening. And John Allette's trying to catch Seth DeMerchant here on the back straightaway, and DeMerchant just appears to have his setup it's just falling apart right now. He's in 4th place, and he's still losing ground to the 81 right now.
32 just trying to hold that inside lane, because as you said, that setup just going away. It looks like it's failing him here in the late stages. All he can do is hold that inside lane and hope that the 81 does not get a run, or does not get a little bit aggressive and hit that rear bumper, because not only is he going to lose that top 5 position, he's also going to fall behind Jeremy Adams in the 89.
Yeah, it's hard to pass when you got someone breathing down your neck, and that's exactly what Jeremy Adams is doing to the 81 of John Alette, the pole sitter. And Jeremy Adams has kind of been where he's at all day in this race. He's started in the 5th position, lost a spot, and just stayed there the entire race. So think he just wants to try and get one more spot here. And while these guys are battling it out, I also got to mention that 69 of Matt Kunker is starting to reel in Christian Peterson. So with under 40 laps to go, 35 when we get to the stripe, it is going to be quite the spectacle to see if these guys do get close enough to do battle before this one's all over.
It'll be close, don't you think? Because we see him starting to bring that gap down just a little bit in that 69 car. But, you know, with the way these tires have been, we've seen guys that have speed at some points in this race. I think Macaulay's probably the best example where he had speed, especially from out laps 21 to 40, but kind of ran the good off his tires at that point. We haven't really seen him be as strong since. So Coker could be faster than Peterson now, but that might also be because he's just pressing a little bit harder now. And then the question becomes, at what point in this race does he give that time back to Peterson, or has Peterson worn off enough of his tires trying to come through the front of the field that he ends up in the same spot on his tires as Coker is?
Also got to look for those lap cars, which will be a factor as they were earlier on. Kyle Young in that number 93 machine is 27 laps down, started late in this race. Was not able to get that car onto the track when these guys started the race. And because of that, he's really far behind these guys. And right now, Christian Peterson is reeling him in. Saw that traffic be an issue earlier with Matt Kunker starting to reel the leader in. These guys just might meet at the same time, and with the 23 being there, that might not be good for him, and he's got to slow down just a little bit going to this corner, but the 93 gives plenty of room for these guys, so not an issue for the lap car. But Matt Kunker is still catching him. He got 2/10, 2 laps to go, and is still catching him this time. A little less than 30 laps to go. Better get your Jaws theme on, because that 69 is a-coming.
And the closer he gets, like you said, the closer he gets, the Jaws theme starts playing, but now the dog has a rabbit to chase. Matt Coker is just seeing that 23 in front of him bit by bit, a little bit closer, he'll start pushing that car just a little bit more and a little bit more, and that may lead to some mistakes either on the 69's part or Christian Peterson's part, because he's going to be looking in the mirror waiting for, you know, a kamikaze move into turn number 1 or turn number 3.
Yeah, sometimes you can get a little bit too overzealous for yourself. It looks like we got a car in the grass. Actually, that appears to be the 31 of Brad Carpenter, so he's going to get lapped right here on the front straightaway, so no one else will lap down, so that puts him basically solo on the track right now with some fast cars behind him. But at the same time, those leaders had nothing to do with it. They can just keep going. Looks like the 31's actually about to retire here as he goes to pit road, but he's coming every single lap, and when you get to him, what do you do? I mean, with a track that's been so hard to pass, we've seen it happen, but with these cars being so equal, we know that these guys work on these setups together. They may actually have the exact same setup in these cars, so it's got to be one, get in the corner a little later, and then really power off the corner, or use that front bumper like the other guy used on you. Remember, these two guys got into it earlier in the race. They're teammates, and I'm sure they're talking to each other, but definitely gotta see that there's front end damage on the 69 or the 23 and rear end damage on the 69.
It'll be tight. I think that's all we can really say and be assured of at this point. And you never know what's going to happen here, especially with the way Peterson was driving in the last 10 laps of the late model stock race. I mean, if he does that again, and if Coker does that again, I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily opposed to seeing Formula Drift impressions here on the Cars eSport Tour, but I'm not ruling it out of the realm of possibility, because these guys have had to push their way through the field twice tonight, and it very well could happen again here as we get down to it.
Yeah, these guys seem really equal here right now. Under 20 laps to go. The laps keep ticking by, just over half an hour into this race, and it's already almost over. The fact that these laps tick by so quickly, but these races, and these guys have actually said it, with the way that these guys, you know, handle these cars, there's no tires that these guys can take in the middle of the race, especially not at a track like this. You lose too many laps, but there is no going back to the pits. This is the car you get. These are the tires you get. At the end of the day, the car you brought is the car you've finished with. And some of these guys are going to be doing 600 left turns. Peterson and Tucker are two of those drivers who are already doing double duty. These guys have got to be tired after all this running around. And I'd say if if they're going to make a mistake, it's going to be here soon because of the fact that you start to get tired. It starts to wear down on you, and the fact that the track is getting slick as the track goes, or as these guys still continue to run on. You can see the rubber still being laid down, and it's like an ice rink out there.
I'm actually watching the 69 of Matt Coker. You know, you say the track is ice. He's actually using it. He's hitting brakes hard, sliding it into the corner, especially in turn number 3. And he's actually getting the car to rotate. And, you know, the lead's kind of stabilized for him now. But, you know, that 23 is just one mistake away from having that 69 right on his rear bumper.
Yeah, look at the 3 right there. That car is going to make it a little bit difficult for the 23 right here. And got to know that that's actually going to hurt the 69 a little bit right there. Looks like he might have got off the corner a little bit bad right there. And then just a couple laps, are going to be 10 laps to go. If the 69 doesn't get up there soon, he may not actually get to have a chance at going for it. So definitely look at the little lap car out there in the grass, about to hit the pit wall right there. That's going to be very close for the 69 coming out of turns number 2 for that lap car. And still battle to be done, but the 69 to Cucker, he is continuing to lose time, and actually he gained a little bit of time. It's a little bit give and take, but he's got to get a lot more give, or he's got to take a lot more time between now. He's under 10 laps to go, and he's got 5/10 to go, and that's a large margin for these guys.
Scott Austin gets out of the way and moves out to the far side, so both Peterson and Cucker can go run for this win. Next car in line for them should be John Roulette, but he's almost got a straightaway on both Peterson and Cucker. So with 7 laps to go, this might be it. Just could be a heads-up race between the 2 men at the top of the point standings to see who takes the checker flag tonight in Kentucky.
Yeah, we've heard these guys talk about in their interviews that how every position helps them so much, and getting in an accident or having an issue in a race can really set them back. Only 10 points really separate these 2 guys. The 2 guys out front are also the 2 guys at the top of the point standings, and there's 10 points between them in every position. Of course, as we know, it is a point, and so if Peterson continues to just beat him by 1 position, he'll, of course, you know, in a perfect world, that would be an easy win for him. Cucker's still going to give it everything he's got. Under 5 laps to go, and he's still losing time on Peterson. Unless something happens to that 23, it looks like it's going to be said and done, but you got to think championship picture right now, that 23 and sinking. He's going to get just a few more points ahead, and with simple mistakes, that could be bad, but these guys have been so consistent, it's going to be hard to take these guys down.
Just 3 laps to go for Christian Peterson. Looks like he's got this thing well in hand. 3 lap cars, except the Merchant. Looks like they're about 10, 15 car lengths in front of him. Should not be a factor here coming. The 2 laps to go.
Getting into turn 1 and 2, what does Matt Cucker have if he has anything left? And no lap cars in front of Christian Peterson to really alter this race at this point. If Cucker's got something, he's got to do it right here and right now. He got a 10th that time, but I don't think it's going to be enough to even get to the bumper of the 23 here going into turns 3 and 4. And as he rounds it out, he's going to be going from last to first here after 150 laps here at the Kentucky Speedway. Christian Peterson is your winner.
He learned something, I think, from that run, and you saw, especially in the last 25 laps of this race compared to his run in the late model stock feature, I think did a much better job of managing his tires as we got to the final stint of this race, which I think makes all the difference in the world. And now he becomes the first driver in this 2017 Cars eSport Tour season to pick up 3 wins in the super late models, which is a pretty impressive feat in and of itself.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he might actually be the most winningest driver. He might be tied, I think, with Josh Berry. I'm gonna have to get my, I'm gonna have to figure that out. Maybe after our interviews, I'll be able to figure that out. But Christian Peterson has been on an absolute rail, and we'll be able to talk to him in just a moment here. But we'll go through the full field rundown before we do that. Christian Peterson, he gets the win tonight, an all-important win just to get a little bit more of a gap between himself and Matt Cucker, who finishes in the 2nd position. Cody McCauley finishes 3rd. Seth Merchant finishes in that 4th position, and Jeremy Adams finishes 5th.
Last car in the lead lap was John Ouellette, who finishes 6th. 1 lap down were Scott Austin and John Leday, who finished 7th and 8th. Brad Carpenter in the 31 car hit problems with a very short amount of time in this race to go. Finishes 9th on the night, and Kyle Young will bring up the rear of the field and finish 10th this evening in the Bluegrass State.
All right, here in Victory Lane, we have caught up with Christian Peterson. Christian, another win to add to your collection here tonight, and got to be pretty happy about another win tonight.
Oh yeah, man. I don't think I've ever had 10 laps that lasted that long on such a short track like this, but I don't think I took a breath for those last 10, man. I don't know. They were so stressful. Cucker was right there, and I knew I couldn't make a mistake, and the car was slowly coming out from under me like every other lap, and just had enough to keep it under me and keep him behind me, and I think the lap cars actually helped me a little bit. I think I got by him a little bit smoother than he did. Caught him going into the corner rather than coming off, so that helped a lot. But last to first, I think we did tonight. So we're gonna try to keep the streak rolling into next week.
Yeah, and talking about your points lead, you're just going to extend it over Matt Cocker here tonight, your teammate. And I saw you guys get into it a little bit earlier. I know that probably wasn't by design. Of course, you got a little bit of front end damage. Were you ever worried about that going throughout the race, thinking, I got a little bit of front end damage and that might hurt my car's performance, or it might? We saw a car blow up in the first race. Did you think anything was going to happen during that?
I mean, the only thing I thought about after that was just what happened to Jody Green, I think it was, in the first race. I think he blew up, and I was running real hot. I had 25 tape on in the first race in the stocks, and it was getting hot, so I went minimum here, and I figured even if I get some front end damage, I'll be fine. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it did pop into my head there when I ran into the back of Cucker at the beginning, and I think we had it just as a domino effect or something, but after we got rolling again, I didn't really think about it again. I was ready to use the bumper if I needed to.
Now, next week we go to the famous Martinsville Speedway, and I've got to say that this track for you, I think, has got to be, for everyone really. We've seen just about everybody on the service, be able to do extremely well there. What does your guys' program look there? You and your team, you've got a lot of outlets, you got a lot of teammates to work on a setup there, and I think we're going to get a good showing from all the drivers out there. But from you personally, is there anything from you that you can really say that you're going to do well there, or do you have things to prove on between this week and next week?
To be honest, I think this track is actually, I mean, you don't have the long straightaways like you do Martinsville, but you still got to be able to get the power down like you do here, and you got to be able to, get through the center. So even though the straightaways are a lot shorter here, I think it's pretty similar. Like I said last week at Bristol or whatever, 3 weeks ago, just make sure you can get into the turn how you like to brake, roll through the center and have some drive off so you can put the power down. You don't necessarily need to be full throttle off the corner. As long as you can get down smoothly and consistently every lap, you'll be good. But I think we got a good couple baselines to work off of. I think this was week 5, so we should have a good stout setup book going into that week and come out with another strong finish.
Well, I'd said you'd learned something from the late model stock race, and then definitely applied it to this race and got the job done. Before we let you go, of course, as always, who makes it happen for you in that 23 machine?
Just everybody at Vincier, like I said, last race. Kamikaze Webworks, he does the paint scheme for me here on the Super. Kyle Barnes, I know he does a lot of work putting on the show, and I think there wasn't a lot of cars tonight, but I think he said the strength of field, if it was an official race, would have been around 4,500 or something. So, I mean, it shows we can put on a good show, and there's a lot of talent in these small fields we got here. But looking forward to next week, and see you guys then.
3 straight wins for Christian Peterson, Thompson, Bristol, and now the Kentucky Speedway Legends Oval. Thanks for giving us a moment of your time there, Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Austin.
All right, there you have it, 23 machine. We're going to go down to Jane Spike on pit road, who's caught up with the 69 of Matt Cucker.
Matt Cooker in the 69 tried to make it happen as best he could only come away with second tonight. So just tell us what it was like trying to run down Christian in that final green flag stint.
It was a handful. I mean, I took notes from the first race. Like I said, I was gonna. I loosened up the car so I could get that turn coming off, and I could run that bottom like Kyle was running before. And it just at the end there, I went with a different gear than he did. I mean, we were close on set. I just loosened mine up a little bit more, and I changed gear to a 2-gear set, and they were running a 3-gear, and I just burned off my right rear coming to the end there. About I'd say 25 laps left, and I was just hanging on to it, trying to catch him, do whatever I had to do to get there, and I just couldn't get there.
How, I think difficult is the best word I can come to use here, because it's not like you and Christian are out and out rivals and don't see each other except for race nights. You two spend a lot of time practicing with one another, and yet here you are, and you are each other's closest competitor in this points battle. So and especially with how much you practice and the setups being so similar, where do you look to try and make changes to try and find a way to beat him? Because there can't be that much really there that you can change when you two are running so closely together.
Well, that's pretty much it. Is I changed my gear, and I would hit the chip. They wouldn't with his gear. He wouldn't hit the chip like I would, and that's where I figured I might have an advantage tonight. And that just wasn't it tonight. I mean, there was nothing else I could have really tried. We were on almost identical sets, so we'll see what happens next week or next time we go out. I mean, I'm just trying little things here and there, and I'm getting closer and closer. But it seems to be that New Smyrna week, the week we weren't working together, was the only week that I was there. I was able to beat him pretty cleanly.
Speaking of the next race, we head to the Paperclip. Martinsville, Virginia is our next stop on this tour. So go ahead and give us early impressions and thoughts about what that track will provide for us and how you race that place.
I mean, I love that track. I've had luck there. I had luck there last year. I mean, last year we showed up my first race, and it was CRA then, and I won it. So we'll see what happens this year. I mean, it's a fun track. There are 2 grooves we'll develop at the end if we have enough cars. I mean, hopefully we'll have a couple more cars than we had tonight. I understand this track's a little bit harder. A lot of people can't drive it that well. So hopefully Martinsville, a lot more people will show up. I mean, it's racing a small car field. It's kind of bummer, but yet it's fun at the same time, because it's always, who's going to be there at the end and who you got to fight.
I know there are a lot of people that make it happen for you in this 69 team, so go ahead and let the people watching on LSRTV who needs thanking and who makes it go.
I mean, first off, I got to thank Jeremy. He's the one who developed the team, and we're working hard, getting faster every week. So I got to thank Kamikaze Webworks, Globalcom, iAnalyze, LSRTV for putting a show on, CEA for giving us a league, the racing, and that's pretty much it. Thank you guys.
Thanks for the time, Matt. Congrats on the runner-up finish, and we'll see you in Martinsville.
We'll be there. Thank you.
There's Matt Cooker, who finishes P2 tonight here at the Legends Oval at Kentucky Speedway, and now we'll move on to our 3rd place finisher, a season's best for Cody McCauley, who is now on pit road with our Gabe Wood.
Cody McCauley, driver of that 62. How you doing, bud? You started off early, working your way up through the field from that 3rd spot, and you ended up getting the lead there in the, close to halfway. But you ended up falling back to 3rd. Still a podium finish here tonight. How do you feel about your effort?
Oh man, we had a great car. It was definitely a fun race. Congratulations to Christian on winning. We were fast at the beginning and got up to 2nd, and I was like, man, we're just gonna ride right here, save tires, it's gonna be all good. All of a sudden, spotted up in me and said, man, Peterson and Coker are coming, you got to go. And we just, we wore the tires out a little faster than I wanted to, and then didn't realize there towards the end that we were just way off on gear. But overall, it was a fun race. It's a lot better race than what I expected for sure, and I look forward to coming back to a racetrack like this.
Yep, Troy Lent on top of the spotter stand. Did Troy tell you at any point, it was, we assumed in the early going it was going to be you and Seth the Merchant, and all of a sudden the bottom fell out of the 32 setup. And these guys who started 9th and 10th, they ended up coming through the field. When was the point where you realized that they would be, coming up to the field? Was it, toward the end of the race, or was it, at the beginning?
Well, we kind of looked back on last race at Bristol. We got beat by Peterson, just, saving tires in the back and then making a hard charge at the end. But, we expected the same thing this week. So it was there in the back of my mind. Now, Coker was definitely a surprise because I didn't see that coming near as fast as he was. He really, in my mind, had one of the better cars tonight. But, we had a good piece, and I felt like if we really would have just hit the gear a little bit better, we'd have been right there with them.
I was just about to ask you, we had a 30-minute warm-up session here for the super late models. Was there anything else other than a gear change you think you could have made to make the car just a little bit faster to where you could have made up that 5 seconds at the end?
No. I mean, the gear was definitely it. The car was just, it was wanting to wheel hop going into the corner, and then by the time you stop wheel hopping, it starts pushing the right front real bad. But, and then once you get done with that, you just, trying to stab back in the gas and get down the straightaways. You could see it. Those guys from center out all the way down to the next corner just pulling us like crazy.
All right, Cody, well, good race here tonight. One more question. Who gets it done on that 62 machine? I already mentioned your spotter. Any sponsors you want to thank before we let you go?
Oh, absolutely. PruittTeam.com, they do a great job putting us together great cars every week. And Scott Austin Designs, you guys got to check him out. He puts out some really good looking cars. Everybody back at the shop, John Allett, Mike Iannarelli, obviously Troy. But, we can't thank those guys enough who do a lot of the stuff behind the scenes people don't see.
All right, Cody, good race here tonight. And I believe I'm going to throw it back to either James or Austin here to close out tonight's broadcast.
Yeah, for tonight, Christian Peterson wins the second race, and Kyle Barnes won that first race. But Christian Peterson learned a lot from that first race. He said it in his interview, and he now ties part-time NASCAR Xfinity driver Josh Berry for all-time wins in this series. And with the role that he's had, 3 straight wins, going to Martinsville, a place that he did really well last year, I think we can expect a lot of things from him. From Christian Peterson. He's been absolutely on a rail. To go from 10th to 1st was an extreme accomplishment, I'd say. And I'd say doing this double duties, that definitely helped him out to learn the tracks and to definitely take information from one race into the other.
Makes it a little bit easier, I think, with the extra seat time to, I think, get a feel for these tracks. And that might be the most important thing when you get up to SOFs, especially above 4,000, 4,500, 5,000. It comes down to both how good your setup is and how good you can get into a rhythm at these places and just kind of run your race. So, Peterson's got the ability to do that. Coker's got the ability to do that. McCauley found something tonight. That's his best run of the season, and I figure, we'll all be watching them when we go to Martinsville in 2 weeks because hot dog, I think we're going to be hungry after that one.
Yeah, very much so. And I like the way you put that, hot dog. And I'd say that whenever we come to all these tracks, I know, Gabe, thanks for joining us tonight for the race. And we don't see tracks like this. And for Cody to say that he liked what he saw or he liked how it drove and he'd want to see more, I think that really shows that the drivers here can really handle a track like this. Sometimes when you go to a small track like this, it's really difficult, and you kind of think to yourself, do you want to or do you not? And I'd say that with the way Cody was talking, this group of drivers can do that, and I'd say they'd be excited to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the number of Legends Oval racetracks on the iRacing service. There's the one at Charlotte that gets used all the time because it's the most famous, Legends Oval in iRacing. It's the one that gets used all the time. Then you have, here at Kentucky, you got Atlanta, you've got Texas, you got a bunch of them, but they just don't get used. It's, it's part of the circuits. You can use them, but they just never get. It's a shame, but a lot of drivers really don't like them because they're a rhythm. You have to build a setup that's really unconventional because of how flat the banking is. There is none. So you really have to build your setup from the ground up.
Well, as we wrap up tonight's broadcast, we do want to make a quick note that we have 2 finales this week. The Super Speedway Cup Series will have its finale at Daytona on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then the United Sim Racing B&C Lawn and Landscaping Series will also have its finale at Homestead with the final 3 drivers. So you're not going to want to miss either of those races here this week. And then, of course, as always, on Monday and every other Wednesday on the Cars eSport Tour and Full Throttle Cup Series. So from all of us at LSRTV, Evan Pasoko, Laura Lawson, Andy Kessler, DJ Lyon, and the team tonight, myself, Austin Coop, James Pike, Gabe Wood, and Cisco Scarmuzza, we thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you all at the next track. Good night.